What's up, guys? Welcome back to yet another video here of House Divided. Another crazy weekend of college football. Um, a lot of stuff going on right before the championship games. But first, let's go over a quick recap of our bets and stuff this weekend. Little improvement based on the last two weekends. Went 2-3 this week on best bets. Way better than 0-5, so I'm trending upward. Went 0-2 on my headlines, and then went to 1 out of 3 on my fantasy explosion. Jose, on the other hand, a little low for his standards, but obviously better than me. 1-1 on his best bets, 2-0 on his headlines, and 0-3 in his fantasy explosion players. Um, Going down to the wire here with college football coming almost to an end, but still a lot of games left. Obviously, playoffs coming soon, but still a lot of NFL left, so still a lot of ground that could be made up. But
Yeah,
this
sure.
weekend was not the best start, but we'll see. Anyway, let's go into our first topic. We ended talking about this last week. The game everyone was waiting for. What a kind of disappointment game it was. I guess from our offensive side, it was very disappointing. We couldn't score a single offensive point. Texas wins the Lone Star Showdown. What were your thoughts of that game?
I just had a question for you. What do you think the Citrus Bowl is going to be like? I hear it's nice this time of year.
It's cool. It's cool. You stole that from my friend.
I did. I heard it from him. We were at the game, and it was like, ooh, I like that line.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll hit the Citrus Bowl, but we'll get a bowl. But we'll
Cheese
see.
It Bowl, something.
Yeah, something.
Bowl, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. My main takeaway is how good Texas's defense is. Again, 0 points given up against this Texas A&M offense that, while not the best, has been solid enough this year. So another game you want to see, big showdown, obviously, for Texas next week. But this is when you want to see from that defense because they're going to have to shut down a big team.
Yeah. I agree. Just reinstating themselves as one of the top defenses in the country. It's kind of sad. It was hard to cheer when your offense can't really do anything. Obviously, that pick six was crazy. That block punt was crazy. But when your offense can't put up a single point, it's kind of hard to win a game. Got stuffed at the one. I don't know why we called the timeout and drew up a crazy play inside zone. It's gonna work. Hasn't worked all game. But it's gonna work here. Yeah, I think that was it was a good call to go for it, but I think a bad play call. We weren't able to run it inside on y'all the whole game, and for some reason he thought we could in that one play.
Little brother doing little brother things.
Yeah. Another thing is Quinn Ewers was the best player for the A&M Aggies. He was trying to give us the game. But yeah, kind of big game Quinn not showing up again. We'll see how he does in another big game against a team he also did not show up against earlier in the season. But
I'll say what I did like, you mentioned Quinn being poor, but Arch coming in on packages, I thought that was new. I thought that was clever, and I really liked that.
Yeah, I heard coming in they might do that, and when I saw it, it did scare me because I think y'all's best plays, besides like running it all over us with Wisner, was when Arch.
Wisner best game of his life. That was a great game from him. I mean, he brought down. Another player to shout out is Trevor Gooseby. Incredible job stopping in for Banks. In my opinion, Texas' best player, going to be a top 10 pick. And Gooseby stepped in there, did not miss a step. Wisner, because of Gooseby and the rest of the guys, Connor, Campbell, Majors, Williams, Wisner was able to have an incredible game. Arch's packages I thought were really good. The way he was able to help us out in the run game when he came in. Good thing with Arches, he's not like an Alex Orji who is going to completely dominate like the run game. So when we do those special packages, I do think we still open up the passing game with that. So I think that's going to help Texas even more. But overall, other than those turnovers by Quinn and the punt block and the missed field goal, so there are stuff to clean up. I do think it was an overall great game, especially defensively. Defensively, it was almost a perfect game. Offensively, there are some things I'd like to see shored up, though.
Yeah, that's fair. Obviously, yeah, your offense first half looked good, but second half kind of slow down the brakes. You guys are moving the ball, but a lot of turnovers in the red zone area.
Yeah, that's something we got to fix. I mean, I guess turning it over in the red zone area is better than what we did against Georgia, and that's turning it over within the 30-yard line.
Yeah.
But I saw this. I saw a video of Connor Wegman after the game staying in late at Kyle Field saying, I want to take it all in one last time.
Yeah, he's gone. No, he's gone. Yeah.
You okay with that?
If he didn't start this year, he's not going to start next year.
Yeah.
So
I just remember the time where he was A&M's prince who was promised, the chosen one. So
yeah, he had good games here and there, but yeah, and he's not. He wasn't it.
He wasn't it.
Yeah.
He wasn't Arch.
No. Well, he doesn't have that Manning last name. But
yeah. That Arch has lived up to the hype in what he's played. So
yeah.
But we've talked about one of the teams headed to the SEC championship, a team that looked great this week, and it's what you wanted to see from them. I'm going to keep the trash talk to a minimum, so we're going to move on. And the other team heading to that SEC championship, the team that did not do what we thought they would do, they took Georgia Tech to 8 overtimes in a crazy thriller game. What's our reaction? What's our takeaway to this game?
The takeaway is it's weird. Georgia is, when they play like the best they can, no one can beat them. But when they play like that, anyone can beat them. Obviously, started off slow. Georgia Tech early 17-0. And then second half, they came back swinging. Started looking like the Georgia we know. And then just back and forth in overtime, missing 2 points. They were running out of plays to call for the 2-point conversion. So it was just a nail-biter. I thought once Georgia started coming back a little bit, I was like, no way, Georgia's going to lose this game. And they didn't. But it was a very fun game to watch and had the slight hope, even though it wouldn't affect the championship game, just to see Georgia lose. But also, I didn't want them to lose because it would make our conference look weaker, even though them going to 8 overtimes makes our conference look weaker, but still better than them losing.
I'm going to disagree. I mean, yeah, obviously what we talk about, it's been the same concern for Georgia all year. How when they play bad, they can be beat by absolutely anybody. They've really only ever shown themselves to be at their top, and not against Texas, really, is what you'd say. Maybe that second half against Bama when they came back. Of course, there was that one play that cost them the game, but at the end. But yeah, Georgia has not been able to turn it on. I want to see them turn it on. Oh, obviously, I don't want to see them turn it on. But if I'm a Georgia fan, I want to see them turn it on, play that way they played against Texas last time. Obviously, I think it's entirely possible for them to do that, given that they've already done it once, and this time they're in Atlanta, so added benefit there. And what you talked about the conference, I don't think the SEC is ever going to lose any hype, even if they have. If Georgia had lost to Georgia Tech and then beat Texas, and they had a 3-loss SEC champion. So,
well, I don't think it's just height. It's just like the fact that this is supposed to be our best team, Georgia and Texas, but Georgia went and Texas beat them. So technically, Georgia is the best team in the conference, and losing to like a mid team from a weaker perceived conference at home would not look good for the SEC. When people are saying 3-loss teams should get in over these 1-loss. Big 10 teams or 2-loss Big 12 teams, or even 2-loss ACC teams.
I mean, I've always been by that standard, though, that a 2-loss team is better than a 3-loss team, though. I mean, it obviously depends a little on like who the losses are, but in Alabama, who lost to a Vandy and in Oklahoma,
who's better, Georgia or Indiana?
Georgia, but
that's the same thing. You just
no. I literally said it depends on who the losses are, and I pointed out that Alabama lost to 2 unranked teams.
That's fair. No, I'm just saying
and Indiana's best win is Michigan, and their loss to Ohio State.
I was just pointing it out. I was asking a question.
It's different situations.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if Georgia lost, it would make all the teams in our conference look worse.
I mean, yes. Yeah, I guess you're right there. I'll give that to you.
Because it's hard to compare conferences when, like, a lot of those Power 5 teams don't play that much interconferencely.
Interconference. Yeah, that's why the committee's such an interesting thing because that's why we're talking. Like that's why I don't think there's a rigid structure of tiebreakers and standings because someone can have it just playing a weak opponent, but you can't go off of opinion because then you go the eye test. So it's very interesting, and who knows?
Yeah, but anyway,
I'm
it
just
was a
glad.
great game on a Friday night.
Yeah,
Weird to
game.
see an SEC school play on a Friday night, but glad we got to see that game with
Yeah,
no other distractions.
did not expect to be able to have those kind of watch a game plans on a Friday night. It was great to have.
Yeah. Moving on to, we mentioned the ACC, a team that kind of choked their spot in the championship. Miami loses to Syracuse. The Syracuse coach after the game getting hyped up, saying, "Dabo, I got you in. Don't worry." Meaning Clemson slides into the ACC championship spot instead of Miami. What are your thoughts on Miami and Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle McCord tweeting after the game, "We got you, Clemson," or "You're welcome, Clemson." Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Clemson with a loss is still they lost, but they still have a chance. They still have a shot. Very interested to see. We'll obviously preview their game against SMU later, but would have rather had seen Miami in that game. They've been more exciting all year. They've got Cam Ward. But yeah, I mean, I think Miami really, with an SMU win, I think it gets easier there. You obviously want Clemson to lose because if Clemson wins, SMU, in my opinion, should still be ahead of you and not be punished for a championship loss. So for Miami, you're really hoping for that SMU win, and we'll see how the rankings come out Tuesday. And that would decide if Miami ends up ahead of Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss, because one of those four teams has to get in the way the board is fallen. So we'll see what happens there. Well, if Clemson loses, one of those four has to get in the way the board is fallen. And in my opinion, I do think it should be Miami if that were the case.
I don't want Miami in there. That defense is atrocious. It was the same story again. Like they can put up points, but that defense cannot stop anything. And against these,
I want to see Cam Ward playing a big game.
Yeah, but any of these offenses that are like locks in the playoffs would put on 50 on that Miami defense. I don't think it'll be.
I think that Miami offense can put up that amount of points.
Do you think that Miami offense can put up that amount on Georgia, on Texas, on?
Not on Texas. I do think they could do it to. I'm looking at the top 10. I think they could do it to SMU. I think they could do it to Boise State. I think they could do it to Tennessee. Maybe Georgia if they have an offense.
You think they can do it to Tennessee? I don't think they can do it to Tennessee.
I don't know. I don't think they can drop 50, but I do think they can drop in the 30 plus range, which is what we could expect from a game like this.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I don't think that defense is going to get carved up by everyone. Like we saw Syracuse carve them up, Wake Forest carve them up. Every single team they've played just carve them up. And
yeah, I'm not saying they'll beat in over Alabama.
No.
But I think they'd be the team I enjoy watching the most.
No, I agree. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think they've played a lot of close games. Their offense is elite, and I don't know. I'd rather not see them in, but I don't know how the sword's going to fall when championship week's over, but we'll get into that later. Another team that choked, this one was a little more shocking, not because of the two teams playing, more because of the two situations coming into the game. Ryan Day can't get the job done again against Michigan. Is he or is he? What's going on with Ohio State, or how can we fall to this weak Michigan team?
A really curious situation to me, because we're talking about a guy who I don't remember the exact record, but it's like 61-8 or something like that. 4 of those losses are now Michigan. The other losses are Oregon this year, the national championship a couple years ago, semifinals against Georgia, semifinals against Clemson. Like, he's a really good coach, but he can't get what is the most important job at Ohio State, and that's beating Michigan. He's 1-4. So that's not – so I understand why the seat is hot. I would keep him really, because he's done a great job. He's good recruiting, and it's just I do think if he is a first round exit come playoffs, I do think he is gone. I don't think, and that would definitely change my opinion of him. But right now, I do think if I were the AD at Ohio State, I would keep him.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep him to see how the season plays out
Yeah.
because they'll be in the
So,
playoffs and no
I
one
obviously
can
don't think
coach.
he's fired
Yeah.
mid-season. If he
Yeah.
gets fired, it would be after the season.
Yeah. I think this Ohio State team obviously still has a chance to win it all, but I don't know what happened during that game. This Michigan team was one of the worst ones in a couple years, and the fact that they came into Ohio State, good on them for winning, but it's kind of a bad and embarrassing loss for Ohio State, to be honest, especially against your number one rival.
Yeah, for Michigan, I mean, they just dominated defensively. Multiple interceptions on Howard, defensive line, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant again. The way that secondary was able to step up. Obviously, they've been out without Rod Moore the whole year, but without Will Johnson, who's been out for a while, that secondary looked like if they had Will Johnson in there, it was great from them. Offensively, they looked exactly like we expected. Their only touchdown came off of getting the ball at the 2-yard line. Zavada obviously proving he's an elite kicker. But the most important thing for Michigan is they got the win. They got the upset over Ohio State. And now they're going off into the recruiting season, the off season, and the next season with a lot of money and a lot of momentum. And that's huge for Michigan going forward. Obviously, they have Bryce Underwood. I just saw they got another 4-star after they beat Ohio State. I know they have a couple of guys on flip watch. They got Derek Meadows that they're looking at. They're looking at Haywood from Alabama. So I do think this is huge for Michigan's future and and for the history of the game going forward, because I do think Michigan is going to be a lot more competitive going forward. And that could obviously, again, impact Ryan Day's future there again. Maybe if he does get this year and loses again next year, who knows?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But moving on to our top 10 this week, let me pull it up and you can go first.
All right. All right. To start us off, I'm going to keep it all the same. Team that's been taking care of business basically every single week since they started rough. Big win. No need to remove him. Oregon. Texas gets the job done in a rivalry game. Even if Ohio State had won, I don't think it would have changed it, but they didn't. So Texas is going up. Notre Dame goes up for the same reasons, took care of business. Losses ahead of them, help them move up. Now, this is the first somewhat major switch. 2 weeks ago, I had Penn State above Georgia because of the way things fell down. Penn State played a very ugly game against an inferior opponent, so I decided to move them below Georgia. This week, it was Georgia who played an ugly game against an inferior opponent, and Penn State took care of business how I wanted them to. And Penn State only has one loss, which is something I value, so I'm moving them up. Georgia's going to stay where they were at 5. Ohio State falls because of the loss to Michigan. Tennessee stays where they were. I do think I for now like Ohio State more than Tennessee. I'm going to leave them where they are. Boise State and SMU and Indiana all come up because of the loss to Miami.
Yeah, fair. Good top 10. Going to mine real quick. I got Oregon, keeping the same. Texas, the same thing. Good win. Ohio State losing bumps them up. Notre Dame, jumped them ahead of Georgia this week because obviously Georgia didn't look the best, and Notre Dame has taken care of business and beat some pretty good teams these past 2 weeks. Then I have Ohio State falling 3 spots. Obviously, bad loss against Michigan, but I still have them ahead of Penn State because we saw that game in Happy Valley a couple weeks ago, and I think Ohio State's still a better team, and they'll win if they match up again. Then I got Tennessee staying put, and I got Boise State and Indiana shifting up because Miami losing. And shout out to Arizona State. My boys been hot. They've been rolling, and obviously Arizona's not that good, but they thumped them the way they should have on the road. And I like that Sun Devil team.
Yeah, I really like Arizona State as well. Great win against T-Mac and the guys, so good for them.
Yeah.
That concludes our college football for today. We're gonna go to the NFL now. Also a great weekend. But there's been this trend for a couple of weeks now. We kind of forgot about it. We didn't talk about it last week because they were on the bye. But that's Cincinnati scoring 30 plus points multiple times. Master classes from Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. This week, a great game from T. Higgins, but they just keep seeming to fall short miraculously somehow. What's going on with Cincinnati after the 44-38 loss against Pittsburgh?
They're kind of like the Miami of the NFL, but don't have as many wins because they play obviously great teams almost every week. Obviously, the Steelers' defense is improved and they are good, but them putting up that many points is atrocious as a defensive coordinator, as a defense as a whole.
Yeah.
And Russ had a great game. Najee had a great game. And I don't even know. I think the Bengals just need to really, in free agency and the draft, target defense because that offense is one of the best ones in the league, but that defense is probably the worst one or bottom two in the league.
Is Zach Taylor on the hot seat for you? Lou Anarumo? Any pressure
I don't really know, man, because I guess he would be. Yeah.
He would be?
Yeah.
I think there's obviously a little heat because
Burrow and Chase are healthy, and I mean, obviously they're doing their job with that defense. They have to figure something out.
Yeah, I think so. There's got to be a little heat on their seats. I mean, I wouldn't put him. If they just win a couple of games down the stretch, I think their jobs will be fine because of what they've done in previous seasons. They deserve to stay. Obviously, if they finish the year out with 4 wins, that's a lot more concerning. And then on the other side, Pittsburgh really cementing themselves as true contenders, showing that they have an offense. Yes, Cincinnati, but that you can score 44 points is still impressive. That's similar to what elite offenses like Baltimore did that game, the Chargers. So that's nice to see. But moving forward, speaking of the Ravens, they lost this week in the Battle of the Birds in a big showdown against the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon does it again. What's our first opinion of this game?
I thought the Ravens were going to win, obviously. A little disappointed by that, but I think the Eagles' defense has improved. Obviously, Saquon's been going off. I saw a stat like Saquon in the second half is the 5th leading or 4th leading rusher in the NFL, only behind Derrick Henry and I think Josh Jacobs or something like that. Yeah, Saquon is on a mission. He's going off. He's the focus of this Eagles offense, and some concern for the Ravens. Obviously, dropping that game at home, big matchup, kind of like a test to see where you're at. And I think the Ravens are not at the Eagles level and some of those elite teams in the NFL's level.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think this really cements the Eagles on the Lions tier, mainly a lot because of the Lions' injuries on the defensive front. They've just been decimated in the front 7 in the box. So I think the Lions are my favorite in the NFC, but the Eagles are just right there knocking at the door with the big win against Baltimore. They have a couple of big showdowns coming up against Pittsburgh, obviously. One I'm looking forward to as a fan in a couple of weeks. But Saquon is up there in the MVP conversation. Great game from them. Jalen Hurts really solid again. But I want to talk about the play again with Jalen Hurts where he fumbled. Do you think that was a false start?
I'll be honest, I didn't watch a lot of that game, but I after watching it like on YouTube, on TikTok or whatever, I did not. But that's just me personally.
I don't think it was either. I mean, it's very, very debatable. So I think you just got to go with the way it was called.
Yeah, I agree. If there's not evidence, then you stick with it. But
yeah,
another you mentioned the MVP ladder. Another guy who's trying everything to get his name up there at the top. He's obviously in that ladder. Josh Allen passes and receives a touchdown in the exact same play. The Bills have a commanding win over the 49ers. What are your thoughts?
First thought is, what a week for Josh Allen, right? Big win, engaged to Haley Steinfeld, and then becomes the first QB to rush, receive, and throw a touchdown in the same game, wins the AFC East. And in my opinion, mainly because Saquon's a running back and how much of the value goes to quarterbacks, is the front runner for the MVP, Josh Allen. So great week from him. This really does look like a team that can finally beat Kansas City in the playoffs. Obviously, there are other games they're going to have to play to get there, and hopefully they don't deal with injuries. But my main takeaway is this team feels different in Buffalo.
Yeah. I also think, obviously, the 49ers are not as great as we thought they would be. They're still a good team. Obviously, still impressive win, but I agree. I think that game may end up being in Kansas City, so I think I would edge Kansas City a little bit in Mahomes in the playoffs. But I think this team can make they always make noise in the playoffs, but can really push the Chiefs. They've pushed them to the limits, but like really pushed them to their limits.
See, I mean, I don't know. Right now, the game would be in Kansas City, but I think Kansas City has the harder schedule going forward. I only see one possible loss in the Bills' schedule. I see more when it comes to Kansas City. I know they still play LA, they still play Pittsburgh. So not to say that they'll lose those games, but definitely more possible losses. And they're not playing as good a football as Buffalo right now. So I don't want to make any guarantees there for them. But another thing that ruined that whole game for me, fantasy football, I'm down 140.06 to 140.18. Towards the end of the game, I have Buffalo's defense. All that's left, we get a punt return touchdown. I'm celebrating. It's going crazy. I just won the week, clinched my spot in the playoffs. Holding. Worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, but you can't blame the dude for holding your other players. Like, you don't expect that from your defense, a punt return touchdown.
I know. Funny thing is, dude, I was watching with my brother and I tell him, dude, I need a punt return touchdown here. Like, that's the only chance I got. We're not going back on defense. And they get it, dude. It was some of the most hype I've ever been during a game. And the holding just ruined me.
It's okay, it happens. I lost to you earlier in the year by like 0.2 or something like that too. So
yeah,
there's little plays here and there. It happens, but we move on. Fantasy, there's a lot of luck that goes into it, but
yeah,
a couple heartbreakers here and there throughout the season. But yeah, that's up there for one of the things. Let's go into our Thursday night preview. Big game, NFC North implications, NFC implications. Packers at Lions. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this is going to be a really, really close, really, really, really good game. The Packers might be the hottest team in the NFL right now. They're dominating very well in the rush game and the passing game with the passing to the running back game with Josh Jacobs, who's playing fantastic football. Jordan Love's gotten going. But I'm still going to take Detroit. I like the Lions. I like the football they're playing. Sonic and Knuckles. It works. Jared Goff has played very cleanly since that game against Houston. Like I said earlier, that front seven is a concern to me. But I do think they're very solid enough. They're at home. I do think they come out with the win Thursday night and really take a good commanding lead. At least defending themselves from the Packers. The Vikings would still be one game behind.
Yeah, I think the Packers are going to come in first drive, try to run the ball, and drain like 6 to 7 minutes off the clock, even if they get a field goal. And then the Lions are going to come back and do sort of the same. But I think overall, the Lions are going to get it done. They're going to really enforce their game on the ground like they do sometimes. Like, they come out and just run it every single play in one drive. And I think I trust the Lions more at home to take care of business. And I think it'll be a close game. It could be high scoring because they have explosive offenses, but I think the clock's going to be drained a lot because a lot of great running game. But I think it'll be like a little 27-20, 27-23, 23-20 Lions win.
So you just mentioned two scores, one of them at 3, one of them at 4. How do we feel about that 3.5 line favoring Detroit right now?
I don't know. It's tricky. I
tricky.
would, if I had a bet, I wouldn't touch it. But if I had to bet it, I would bet on Detroit because they're good at covering spreads and they're a good home covering spread team. But it's a tricky one. If it gets under 3, I'll take the Lions. But above, I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it either, but I do think I like Detroit in it as well if I had to pick. You mentioned a lot about the score and what you're expecting. How do you feel about the 51.5 over under?
Oh, no, like I could see them like come out and just sling
It's another
the ball.
one I don't touch.
I don't want to touch it, but I would lean under because a lot of times primetime games lean under and divisional games lean under, and they're both great running teams. So it's not even because I don't think their offenses are explosive enough. I think both teams are gonna, especially in the first half, try to set the tone on the ground. So a lot of clock will be drained. So I lean under, but again, I wouldn't touch it.
I feel similar to you. Again, divisional games. The Pittsburgh Steelers 44-38. That's not normal. Normal games are what they did 2 weeks earlier when they scored 17 points to 16. So that's North football. I mean,
yeah. But yep. Thanks guys for watching. Great episode.
Horns. The eyes of Texas are upon you. We beat the ever living, ever loving, everything that guy said. Texas did it.
Yeah, that's true. I can't say anything about it. Great win for y'all. Guys, drop in the comment. I need to hop on another team for the rest of the college season to cheer on. So you guys just drop in the comment your teams, then I'll see which one I'm feeling. Thank y'all. Tune in on Friday for the predictions for championship weekend and other NFL games. Thanks.